God of High School is a martial arts tournament. The participants are the strongest fighters in the country. They must engage in fierce battles against one another. Some even have to fight for their lives, because the winner will have any wish granted. At this time, on a remote island, a group of wealthy men are negotiating about the martial arts tournament. Because they have a lot of money, they are willing to pay Park Mujin to fix the matches. This makes them extremely excited, because they believe they can control Park Mujin. Suddenly, a massive storm appears. It terrifies the wealthy men. Something enormous descends from the sky. It turns out to be a gigantic hand. And the one responsible for this is the tournament chairman, Park Mujin. This boy's name is Jin Mori. He is dreaming about his grandfather. His grandfather advises Mori to believe in himself, and tells him to try making more friends. Suddenly, Mori wakes up. He realizes he's late for the tournament, which shocks him. So he quickly grabs his bicycle and takes off. But Mori rides too fast, and nearly crashes into an old woman. Luckily, Mori managed to dodge in time, but he ended up falling off a cliff. Meanwhile, people were talking about the tournament. They were eagerly anticipating exciting battles to come. At a convenience store, a young man named Han Daewee was there. He is also a fighter in the tournament, and Daewee was preparing for his upcoming match. In a park, a girl was asking some guys for directions to the tournament, but when she saw their muscles, she became quite interested, so the guys started showing off their muscles. Back to Mori, he was still racing to the tournament. Suddenly, he noticed something. A thief had just snatched the old woman's purse. Mori imagined how difficult it must be for her. That touched his heart, so he started chasing the thief on his bicycle. Even though there were lots of cars on the road, Mori skillfully avoided all of them. He quickly caught up to the thief. Unexpectedly, the thief managed to escape. The thief thought Mori wouldn't be able to catch him. That made Mori furious. Then, out of nowhere, Mori leapt into the air, and Mori continued chasing after the thief. Meanwhile, Mira was admiring the muscles of the young men. Suddenly, Mori crashed into her. Her glasses broke from the impact. That made Mira furious. She immediately attacked Mori with her wooden sword. When Mori explained the situation to her, Mira was moved by his words. So they decided to chase the thief together. At that moment, Daewee was watching the live stream. He realized a robbery was happening, while Mira and Mori were chasing the thief. They kept attacking him non-stop. Suddenly, the thief made a sharp turn to shake them off. So Mira used her wooden sword, helping Mori turn quickly, and they closed in on the thief. Out of nowhere, the thief threw money to distract them. But they didn't care about the money. Instantly, Mira leapt forward. Unexpectedly, her face hit a signboard. Her face got completely distorted. The thief thought he had escaped. But suddenly, Daewee appeared. He landed a punch right on the thief's face. Mori and Mira were completely shocked. And so, the three of them met. At that moment, an MC was talking about the tournament. He announced that the God of High School tournament had officially begun. The crowd erupted with excitement. Over on Mori's side, Mira looked annoyed. She demanded that Mori compensate her for her broken glasses, because she couldn't see anything. Mori then thanked the two of them, and they introduced themselves in return. Now, their turn to fight had also begun. The host started explaining the rules of the tournament. He said, "There's no time limit in this tournament, and contestants can use any type of weapon. A match only ends when someone is knocked out or surrenders." Finally, the fighters appeared. One by one, they stepped onto the arena. But Mori was starving, because he hadn't eaten breakfast yet. At that moment, on each contestant's wrist, they all wore a special bracelet. It showed each fighter's physical condition. And when a contestant surrenders, they would be treated immediately. In the end, who will be the one to win? The winner will have one wish granted. Suddenly, the MC declared the battle had begun. Everyone was shocked, because they didn't expect the match to start so quickly. Instantly, the fighters rushed in to attack. They unleashed a flurry of martial arts techniques, showing off their individual strengths. The fighters decided to take out the weak ones first, so Mori became their first target. They charged straight at him, but Mori immediately fought back. He took down each of them one by one. To make the battle more intense, the judges brought in a prisoner to join the tournament. His name was Kong Mansok, and his physical stats were only at 20%. Kong looked thrilled. Without hesitation, he rushed forward to attack. He knocked down fighters one after another. Mira saw Kang's arrogant demeanor, and it irritated her, so Mira dashed forward to attack him. But none of her attacks had any effect on him. Suddenly, Mori appeared and pulled down Kang's pants as a prank, revealing Kang's bright pink underwear. Right after that, Mori was also kicked hard by Kang and sent flying. However, he managed to counter with an elbow strike to Kang's leg, catching him off guard. Immediately, the two of them charged at each other. Neither of them was willing to back down. Suddenly, Mira jumped in to attack as well. But since she was nearsighted, Mira accidentally twisted Mori's neck, mistaking him for Kang. That brought their match to an abrupt halt, before a winner could be decided. At that moment, Dewi was in shock, seeing Mori's neck bent like that. But thanks to the tournament's medical technology, Mori was quickly healed back to normal. In the end, all three of them passed the first preliminary round. On the way back, they shared their reasons for joining the tournament. Mori said he wanted to fight strong opponents. Dewi joined because he needed money, while Mira hoped to find someone worthy, someone who could inherit her family's moonlight sword style and help her restore her dojo. But then, Mori started fooling around again. He suddenly snatched Mira's sword, and accidentally dropped it into the river, which made Mira instantly furious. She slapped Mori straight across the face and shouted, "Get lost!" Then she went down to the river to retrieve her sword, because it was a keepsake from her father. Now that Mira had kicked Mori out, he still decided to come back, because Mori wanted to help her. Meanwhile, Dewi borrowed a flashlight to make their search quicker. The next day, the crowd gathered to watch the second round of the tournament. Anyone who passed this round would qualify for the national competition. The second round used a single elimination format. Contestants would fight one-on-one to secure their spot. While everyone was waiting for their match, Kang approached Mori and tried to provoke him while he was napping. But another contestant named Go Gamdo stepped in. Kang instantly countered with a powerful kick, even though the attack didn't land directly. The pressure alone was enough to make Gamdo's nose bleed. Right after that, the host appeared. He announced the matchups for the second round. And so, the second round battles began. One by one, Mira, Mori, and Dewi defeated their opponents, securing easy victories for all three of them. The next two contestants who advanced were quickly revealed. Unexpectedly, the upcoming match would be between Gamdo and Kang. At that moment, Mori met with Gamdo. He warned Gamdo to be careful, because Mori knew Kang was an extremely strong opponent. As soon as the match started, Gamdo immediately unleashed his Tai Chi Chuan techniques. He launched a series of continuous attacks on Kang, using his refined martial arts skills. Gamdo sent Kang flying into the stands. However, Kang was completely unharmed. He remained calm, and even asked the audience to help him stand up. Kang quickly returned to the ring, but Gamdo kept pressing forward with his attacks. Eventually, Kang decided he had enough. He took his right hand out of his pocket and launched a furious assault on Gamdo. He used powerful taekwondo techniques. His fighting style was wild and ferocious, making everyone around feel afraid. Gamdo was beaten to the point of near unconsciousness, yet he still maintained his composure. At that moment, Gamdo recalled the core principle of Tai Chi Chuan. Then he delivered a powerful palm strike to Kang's chest. But Kang countered the move. He reflected all of Gamdo's force back at him, sending Gamdo flying across the stage. But it didn't stop there. Kang continued to brutally attack Gamdo. He forced Gamdo to beg for mercy, because in the past, Kang had also been defeated by someone stronger, and he was forced to beg in order to survive. Seeing that Gamdo still refused to submit, Kang used his other hand. He broke both of Gamdo's arms. He even intended to tear Gamdo's arm off completely. Outside the ring, Mori couldn't stand watching anymore. He immediately rushed onto the stage and launched a flying kick at Kang, sending him flying away. Enraged, Kang charged at Mori, but Mori countered again and sent him flying into the stands. Seeing this, the four judges stepped in at once, because Mori had violated the rules by interfering in an ongoing match. Suddenly, Kang got back on his feet. He was now radiating intense killing intent. Kang launched a vicious kick aimed straight at Mori. Thankfully, a white-haired judge stepped in just in time to block it. However, Mori still leapt into the air and unleashed a flurry of enhanced taekwondo kicks, sending Kang crashing out of the ring. And just like that, Mori had defeated Kong. Suddenly, Mugen appeared. He restrained Mori effortlessly with just one hand. Mugen declared that the tournament would continue as usual, but Mori would be punished because he violated the rules. But the audience still cheered for Mori. It turns out everyone was amazed by Mori's strength, so they were thrilled and kept supporting him. Elsewhere, a cult called Nox was secretly watching the tournament. They were planning to steal an item known as the key. Nox was carrying out a mysterious plot. At this time, Gamdo was severely injured, and he could no longer continue in the tournament. So Gamdo was officially eliminated. Meanwhile, Kong was terrified. He could feel the overwhelming power Mori possessed. However, according to the rules, Mori was also disqualified because he had interfered in another contestant's match. But Mugen was surprised when he learned that Mori's grandfather was a man named Jin Taejin. Mugen wanted to confirm something important. The second day of the tournament officially began. The opening match was between Mira and a pro wrestling queen named Mission. She was also the reigning champion of the United States. As soon as the match started, Mission completely overwhelmed Mira. Because of her superior physical strength, Mission easily slammed Mira onto the floor. Then Mission leapt into the air and used her body to crush Mira. She even mocked her with a taunt, "If I win this tournament, I'll turn the judges into my personal harem." As the match continued, Mira still couldn't land any damage on Mission. Even though she used a wooden sword, Mission's body was just too tough. She was that strong because Mission had trained hard for many years. Mission kept knocking Mira down, then confidently stepped out to celebrate with the crowd, thinking the fight was already over. But Mira suddenly stood back up. She transformed her arms into blades using the fifth style, and Mira unleashed a slash, landing a powerful hit on Mission. Mira followed up with 2 consecutive sword energy strikes, making it impossible for Mission to defend herself. And just like that, Mira defeated the Queen of Wrestling. Mori immediately celebrated Mira's victory. At that moment, Mugen appeared and offered Mori a chance to return to the tournament. But he had to defeat the green-haired commissioner first. However, Mori wanted to fight the blonde-haired commissioner instead, because he had lost to him in the past. Hearing that, the green-haired commissioner got angry and said, "I'm way stronger than Blondie." Then he threw a punch straight at Mori's face, making Mori feel his power. Mori instantly agreed to the match, and the official fight was scheduled for the next day. On the way home, Daewoo and Mira were really worried about Mori. They didn't know if he would get kicked out of the tournament. Suddenly, Mori appeared with a big smile. He proudly showed off the fruits Mugen had given him. When Mira heard Mori had to fight a commissioner, she became even more worried. She knew there was a huge gap in strength between them. However, Mori remained confident, and he believed he would win. When he got home, Mori ate all the fruits. Suddenly, he coughed up blood and collapsed. The next morning, Daewoo visited his best friend in the hospital. It turned out that the reason Daewoo entered the tournament was to earn money to treat his friend's cancer. While working at an internet cafe, Daewoo was harassed by a group of thugs. They intentionally provoked him, but Daewoo tried to hold back because he didn't want to lose his job. The next day, it was time for Daewoo's match. His opponent was a bookworm named Sung Chun. While Sung Chun had strong faith in studying, he believed reading books alone could make him a champion. The match began, and Sung Chun easily predicted Daewoo's moves. He kept landing hits on Daewoo because he had studied every karate technique for 3 years. However, Daewoo's body gradually adapted. Now, his speed and reflexes became faster. As both of them charged at each other, Sung Chun accidentally slipped. Everyone thought Daewoo would take advantage of the opening, but instead, Daewoo reached out his hand to help Sung Chun up. That gesture deeply moved Sung Chun, so he decided to fight seriously. Sung Chun unleashed 12 strikes targeting 12 key points on Daewoo's body. Even though he took the hits, Daewoo still stood back up to fight. He remembered that his best friend was also fighting against illness. This time, Sung Chun launched 72 consecutive strikes, but Daewoo countered with a powerful punch. Then both of them began using all their martial arts techniques. They kept exchanging blow after blow. Just as Daewoo was about to land the finishing strike, Sung Chun smiled and accepted defeat. He collapsed and admitted, "Because the theories in my books were wrong. At that moment, everyone was looking forward to the match between Mori and the green-haired commissioner. But Mori hadn't shown up yet. Suddenly, a miracle happened. Mori woke up and sprinted to the arena. Since it was a handicap match, Mori only needed to knock the green-haired commissioner down once to claim victory. As soon as the match began, Mori rushed in instantly. He removed the commissioner's glasses, then gave him a light push, which caused the green-haired commissioner to fall. And just like that, the match ended in an instant. It shocked all the spectators. While the blue-haired judge was dissatisfied, he immediately counterattacked, but Mori launched a powerful kick at him again, sending him flying far away. The blue-haired judge felt humiliated and even more frustrated, so he summoned a clown wielding a scythe, whose power level reached 2,500. Mori instantly recognized the huge gap in strength, so he had no choice but to run away. However, the clown caught him anyway, and now the opponent was about to deliver the finishing blow to Mori. Suddenly, the other judges stepped in just in time to stop the blue-haired guy. Mugen immediately stepped forward and decided to cut the blue-haired judge's salary for 3 months. Because he violated the tournament rules, Mugen now also acknowledged Mori as the winner. Deep down, Mugen understood that if Mori could survive after eating those fruits, then he might truly be his biological nephew, and also the successor of Jin Taijin. In the end, all three of them made it to the semifinals. The next match would be between Daewoo and Mira. At that moment, the group was on their way home, chatting with each other like they always did. Suddenly, a young man in a supercar appeared. He stepped out and stood in front of Mira. Then he dropped a whole series of romantic lines, because he wanted to propose to Mira. It completely shocked the whole group. Unexpectedly, Mira nodded and accepted. She was even happily picking out a wedding dress with her little sister. Mira's sister was thrilled, because her older sister was about to marry the purple-haired guy. He was actually a famous martial artist named Song Jin. It turned out that Song Jin had visited Mira's family dojo before, and he had proposed to Mira many times. At first, Mira was hesitant, because she was still a high school student. But when Song Jin Saida wanted to rebuild the moonlight sword style with her, Mira immediately agreed. She recalled the day her father passed away. During the funeral, some people who came to pay respects even looked down on her family's sword style. They believed that the sword style had ended with her father. Mira's uncle had adopted her, and he wanted to continue protecting the family's martial art. However, since his abilities were too weak, Mira still had to carry the burden her father left behind. At that moment, Mori was out buying snacks. Suddenly, he accidentally overheard the news that Mira had withdrawn from the tournament to get married. He immediately rushed to Mira's house to ask her. Mira simply said she was getting married, because she wanted to restore her family's sword style. After that, she kicked Mori out, but Mori was worried that Mira had been deceived, so he immediately called Daewoo for help. Moreover, Mori could sense that Mira wasn't truly happy, because he felt there was a hidden secret behind all this. Now, Mira was wearing her wedding dress. She put on makeup and looked beautiful for the ceremony, but her expression was filled with sadness. Suddenly, Mira's uncle came and begged Song Jin to cancel the wedding, but Mira stopped him. She said, "Don't worry, uncle. Thanks to Song Jin, I'm truly happy, because I'm finally about to fulfill my dream." Mori wanted to meet Mira, but the guards kicked him out, because he didn't have an invitation. At that moment, the wedding officially began. It turned out Song Jin was a member of the Nox organization, and the church only wanted to steal Mira's family heirloom sword. Outside, Mori didn't want to fight the guards, but Daewoo showed up, and he easily took down all of them. Then the two of them stormed into the wedding hall to rescue Mira. Seeing that the guards were useless, Song Jin decided to draw his sword and attack himself. Daewoo instantly blocked Song Jin's strike. He told Mori to go and talk Mira out of it, but Mira wouldn't listen. She even got angry, punched Mori, and kicked him out. Seeing that, her uncle rushed in, stopped Mira, and said, "Your father would never want to see you like this." Mira suddenly recalled the words her father once told her when he was still alive. And then, she burst into tears. Mira realized she had gone against her family's will. Right after that, she apologized to Song Jin, and announced that she wanted to cancel the wedding. Now, she would rebuild the moonlight sword style in her own way. Song Jin laughed maniacally, finally revealing his true colors. He admitted that he had used Mira because all he wanted was her family's heirloom sword. Immediately, Song Jin summoned a giant samurai, and it slashed the wedding hall into pieces. Song Jin swung his blade and struck Mira in the waist, but she was completely unharmed. She countered with Moonlight Sword Style, 6th form, and defeated him with ease. But Song Jin was still smiling, because he had managed to steal the wooden sword. Without hesitation, Song Jin got in his car and fled. Mira didn't chase after him, because her father's memory would always live in her heart, not in the sword itself. That night, Daewoo was left speechless when he saw his best friend's condition getting worse. Daewoo became more and more frustrated. At the internet cafe, he was once again provoked by a group of thugs. They insulted Daewoo's sick friend without mercy. Suddenly, he couldn't hold it in anymore. Daewoo attacked them on the spot. The next morning, Mori overslept. He rushed to the arena to watch the semifinal match between Mira and Daewoo. But he was shocked. Mori saw Daewoo ruthlessly attacking Mira without holding back. In the end, Daewoo won the match. After the fight, Mori waited outside to meet Daewoo. But Daewoo coldly said, "See you in the finals." The next semifinal was between Mori and the fighter Jae-hee. At this point, Mori was extremely pissed off. He quickly knocked out Jae-hee with a powerful kick, then turned to glare at Daewoo with a challenging stare. Before the final match, Mori visited Mira at the hospital. She had already received medical treatment thanks to the tournament's advanced technology. When she thought back on Daewoo's behavior, Mira didn't blame him. She believed Daewoo must have his own reasons. Finally, the championship match began. The crowd inside the stadium was roaring with excitement. As soon as the signal was given, Mori and Daewoo charged at each other. They exchanged powerful, deadly blows. Mori kept launching kicks using his taekwondo style. Meanwhile, Daewoo responded with powerful karate punches. Then, Mori took 2 heavy punches from Daewoo. They were the same blows that had taken Mira down. Mori couldn't forgive that. He didn't want to see his friends getting beaten so harshly. So Mori charged in and unleashed 3 consecutive, modified taekwondo strikes. Then, he delivered a devastating kick, sending Daewoo flying backward. Mori reached out his hand to help Daewoo up, but Daewoo coldly said, "I've never considered him or Mira as friends." Then, he prepared his first official karate technique, Fist of the Black Turtle. Meanwhile, Mira had just been discharged from the hospital. She happened to see a crowd gathered inside a hospital room. It was Daewoo's best friend, and he had just taken his final breath. Even though the best medical technology had been used, the illness had progressed too far. Mira looked at a photo of the boy with Daewoo, and suddenly, she understood everything. Back on the arena, after the powerful Fist of the Black Turtle, Daewoo launched his second move, Phoenix Kick. The truth was, Daewoo had been fighting so ruthlessly because of a promise made with Mugen. Mugen had told him that if he could win both the semifinal and the final in dominant fashion, his friend would be cured. That's why Daewoo was trying to end the fight as quickly as possible, to save his only friend. Just as Daewoo was about to unleash his final move, suddenly, Mori charged forward with all his strength. But Mori stopped his attack midway, and took Daewoo's full strike head-on. At that moment, Mugen stepped onto the stage and said, "Your friend has passed away. We tried, but it was too late." Daewoo was stunned into silence. Back then, Daewoo was well known at school, because he was incredibly good at fighting. But one day, Daewoo was surrounded and ganged up on by another group. The friends around him ran away, leaving Daewoo all alone. Just then, his closest friend suddenly jumped in to help him. After that fight, the two of them became best friends. Hearing the news of his best friend's death crushed Daewoo's will to fight. While Mori still struggled to stand and continue, Daewoo just stood there, not fighting back. Just as Daewoo was about to forfeit the match to Mori, Mira appeared out of nowhere. She held up a loudspeaker and shouted. Mira tried to reignite Daewoo's fighting spirit. Then, she handed Daewoo a letter. That letter was also the final message from Daewoo's best friend. After reading it, Daewoo immediately regained his spirit, which made Mori incredibly happy. In the letter, his best friend wrote that he was truly grateful to have a friend like Daewoo. He said that at this point, he had no more regrets, and he wanted Daewoo to fight for himself. This time, Both Mori and Dewi went all out. Even though they clashed fiercely, they both enjoyed the fight with smiles on their faces. Dewi unleashed Blue Dragon Storm, sending Mori flying high into the air. But Mori came up with a brand new move called Blue Dragon's Kick. He launched a powerful kick straight at Dewi, shattering a section of the arena. After taking the full force of the attack, Dewi could no longer hold on and collapsed. Mori walked over, reached out his hand to help Dewi up, and told him he wanted to be friends. The crowd was now roaring with excitement, because they had just witnessed an incredible fight. Mira also walked over and joined them. The three of them stood together as if nothing had happened. Mori was now officially the sole regional tournament champion. In a distant forest, at that moment, the Nox cult had approached Mori's grandfather. The leader of Nox invited him to join their organization, but he simply replied, "I'm not joining." And so, both sides prepared for a fierce battle. Meanwhile, back at the tournament, the top 3 contestants from each region would now form a team to enter the national tournament. Everyone would fight for the championship in a team-based format. Mira quickly defeated the fighter Jae-hee, securing her spot in the regional top 3. And now, all 3 of them would move on to the national tournament. This year, many powerful contestants were coming from all over the country. The true purpose of the martial arts tournament was to find someone strong enough to awaken as the key. Additionally, the judges were already aware that the Nox cult would begin making their move once the national tournament began. Their goal was to steal the key. However, Mujin told everyone to remain calm, because he had gathered the 6 strongest individuals to deal with them. Mori happened to walk past an old man, but when he turned back, the old man had vanished. It turned out to be Na Bongchim, one of the 6 strongest people whom Mujin had summoned. Na Bongchim was also Mujin's master. Meanwhile, Mori's grandfather lightly tapped the ground with his foot. It blew away an entire mountain. Meanwhile, the leader of Nox summoned a gigantic sword from the sky that stabbed straight down. At this time, Mira was at the supermarket, when suddenly she ran into the family of commentator Shim. When they went outside to talk, Shim thought Mira had not yet unlocked the full potential of the Moonlight Sword style. So he gave Mira some advice, wanting to help her become stronger, since Shim's blind eyes were also caused by the Moonlight Sword style. He understood its true power well. When leaving, Shim told his wife to take the child ahead, because he spotted a person dressed as a rabbit, who was actually a member of the Nox church. Diaoyi went to meet Mujin, wanting to ask about the power that the blue-haired judge had once summoned. Mujin explained that it was borrowed power, a power borrowed from the divine. In the upcoming national tournament, most contestants possess this power. Meanwhile, Mori was over here, climbing a tree to get balloons for the kids. But when he jumped down, Mori sprained his ankle. Bongchim suddenly appeared, injecting a needle into Mori's leg, instantly healing his sprain. Meanwhile, contestants from other regions, they were also on their way to the national tournament venue. The next morning, Diaoyi told 2 friends about the borrowed power. But Mori was not afraid at all, because the stronger the opponent, the more excited he became. Now the national tournament officially began. Mira was very surprised when she saw that the commentator this time was not Shim. It turned out Shim had been murdered, shocking all the judges. Meanwhile, the assassin belonged to the Nox church, and after killing Shim, he continued to attack the blue-haired judge. Meanwhile, the national tournament started with a team battle format. Teams would decide the winner through 3 intense matches. In the first match, Mori faced a blonde young man named Najidon. As soon as the match started, Mori suddenly pressed some acupuncture points on his own body. He declared that he had become many times stronger, making Najidon scared before even fighting. It turned out Bongchim had secretly taught Mori the acupuncture technique. But unfortunately, Mori pressed the wrong points, leaving his whole body unable to move. Mori became a punching bag for Najidon, who mercilessly attacked him. Because Mori lost, so Diaoyi had to win for the team not to be eliminated. Diaoyi's opponent was a 38-year-old man named Pam Wong. With a serious spirit of learning, Pam Wong proved that age no longer mattered. Immediately, Pam Wong unleashed his 2 ultimate techniques, sending Diaoyi flying into the wall. Just as Pam Wong was about to deliver the finishing blow, Diaoyi suddenly sat up and counterattacked, overpowering the man. It turned out Pam Wong was a construction worker, and he had failed high school 3 times in a row, so he was often looked down upon, with people calling Pam Wong a loser. However, with his spirit of never giving up, he worked hard to study. Eventually, Pam Wong entered high school and qualified to participate in the tournament. Back to the match, Pam Wong delivered a very powerful strike, sending Diaoyi flying into the corner of the floor. Immediately after, Pam Wong used borrowed power, summoning a giant hammer. However, Diaoyi was not intimidated. He rushed forward to block the hammer, and Diaoyi unleashed the Blue Dragon's storm to defeat his opponent. At the same time, he brought victory to the team, when suddenly the blue-haired judge jumped out, cutting off one arm of the church member. Although he was injured, but the blue-haired judge calmly sat up, lighting a cigarette. Now he removed his power limits, and the blue-haired judge charged to attack him. They continuously exchanged attacks, but it wasn't over yet. He also cut off the other arm of the church member. However, the church member called forth his borrowed power, which was a giant worm. It helped reattach the arm and endlessly regenerate. Seeing this, the blue-haired judge immediately rushed to finish him off. However, his 2 comrades, Axel and Satan, appeared in time to stop him. The blue-haired judge then unleashed his attack cards. Axel grew wings and flew up into the sky. Meanwhile, Satan summoned countless hands from the ground, which wrapped around the blue-haired judge, creating an opportunity for Axel to finish him off. Fortunately, the white-haired judge appeared just in time, saving the blue-haired young man. Meanwhile, the final match began, and it turned out to be a fight between Mira and Zhang Mi. After a few probing sword strikes, Zhang Mi realized her swordsmanship was inferior to Mira's, and finally her wooden sword was broken by Mira. Zhang Mi was forced to call forth her borrowed power, which was a brilliant sword of light. On the opposing side, Satan used his cross. This guy fired laser beams at the white-haired judge, but none of them hit, because he activated Faker's dodge mode. Satan summoned his borrowed power, which was a giant monster, and he wanted to use it to swallow the white-haired judge. However, the judge's borrowed power was also very strong. It was a bigger dragon, and the dragon swallowed the monster back. Meanwhile, Axel was no match for the blue-haired judge, and he immediately took a deadly scythe strike to the chest. On the battlefield, Mira almost lost because of Zhang Mi's sword of light attack, but remembering Shim's advice, Mira rushed forward to deliver a decisive kick, defeating Zhang Mi, and helping the team secure a ticket to the next round. After a fierce battle, the 2 church members were defeated. Axel quickly grabbed Satan and escaped, while the other one knew he had no way out, so he transformed into a bomb himself, detonating the entire house. Fortunately, both judges survived. Zhang Mi was disappointed, and she apologized to her teammates, but Pam Wong happily encouraged her, saying, "As long as you don't give up, there's always a chance next time." Because the judge's base was kept secret, Mujin realized there was a traitor within. Not only that, they also received images showing the battlefield between Jin Taejin and the Nox group. Only one arm remained, and it was confirmed to be his. Without keeping the audience waiting long, the next match quickly began, between Tech and Jugok. Seeing Jugok took too long to cast a spell, Tech immediately summoned a shark, and ruthlessly attacked him. Jugok's maid couldn't bear the sight. She rushed out to beg for a stop, but was also finished off by Tech. Mira knew Mori would intervene, so she stopped him. Unexpectedly, Diaoyi jumped onto the stage before Mori, and saved the maid. Just as both sides were about to attack each other, the referee intervened in time. Jugok took advantage of the chaos, casting an attack spell on Tech, but Jugok's attack had no effect. Tech counterattacked, hitting him with a punch, and Tech summoned the shark again to bite him. Finally, the match ended, and Tech was declared the winner. Jugok was taken away for treatment after the match. Meanwhile, the tournament continued as usual. However, Diaoyi was suspended for causing trouble, leaving his team with only Mori and Mira. The next match took place. The deciding battle for a semifinal spot was between Jay and Pio. As soon as the match began, Pio used the ancient Tech Kion martial art, relentlessly attacking Jay, knocking him into the corner of the arena. At that moment, Jay was furious. He summoned a dark borrowed power to attack, But Pio moved extremely fast, dodging every strike. Suddenly, Pio delivered a kick that easily knocked Jay down. Meanwhile, Mori was surprised when he noticed the tiger emblem on Pio's shirt, which was exactly like the one on his grandfather's shirt. On the way back, Mira and Diaoyi realized their current opponents were much stronger thanks to borrowed power. So the group decided they needed to learn borrowed power soon if they wanted a chance to win. However, Mori suddenly left, causing both of them to worry. It turned out Mujin had told Mori about Taejin's situation, and he said the chance Jin Taejin was still alive was very low. Now Mori was very worried. Unexpectedly, Pio came to see Mori. He approached to shake his hand, and said he had been a fan of Mori for a long time. But before Mori could answer, Pio pulled him outside for a friendly match, which ended in a draw. Then Mori asked about the tiger emblem on his shirt. Pio revealed that the tiger symbol on his shirt was a sign of respect for Mori's grandfather. 14 years ago, when Pio's father died and his mother left, he was abandoned. Pio was isolated at the martial arts school, because he had no talent. At that time, Mori's grandfather appeared, claiming to be a friend of Pio's grandfather, and gave Pio the ancient Taekyon manual. The image of the tiger on Mori's grandfather's shirtha had been deeply imprinted in Pio's mind since then. Meanwhile, the blue-haired judge, due to heavy salary deductions, seemed to be in financial trouble. Suddenly, Diaoyi noticed his situation and offered to learn borrowed power from him. In return, Diaoyi promised to cook for him every day. That night, Mujin gathered all the judges, announcing that they were allowed to remove their power limits. Because the Nox Church was plotting to sabotage the tournament, they want to seize the key. And that is also the common goal of both sides. Today is Mori's birthday. He recalls his 6th birthday. That day, his grandfather decided to leave, wanting to stay away to protect Mori from evil people. Before leaving, he said, "In this world, nothing is more precious than friendship." At that moment, Mira and Diaoyi arrived, and surprisingly organized a birthday celebration for Mori. It turned out the tournament system had sent them a message informing them of this. Mori was very touched, because this was the first time he celebrated his birthday with friends. He finally understood what his grandfather meant about the value of friendship. After they ate and drank heartily, the three of them resolved to win the championship. The next morning, Mori was surprised when he received a letter with a picture of his grandfather, showing that he was being held captive by the Nox cult. So Mori immediately rode his bike to that place, promising himself to return before the tournament began. Meanwhile, Mira and Diaoyi searched everywhere for Mori, but they still couldn't find him. If the tournament started and Mori didn't return in time, their team would be immediately eliminated. Therefore, Mira decided to delay the tournament as long as possible, wanting to create an opportunity for Diaoyi to find Mori. Soon after, Mira stepped onto the arena. She fought against a young man wearing swimwear named Marine. Meanwhile, Mori arrived at a warehouse, and saw his grandfather lying motionless on the ground. On the arena, Mira was struggling, because she couldn't deal any damage to Marine. This guy had smeared slippery cream all over his body, making all of Mira's sword strikes ineffective. Suddenly, Marine charged forward, intending to grab Mira and slam her to the floor. But Mira quickly drew her wooden sword, narrowly escaping. Unexpectedly, Marine's teammate threw him a wooden sword. Marine swung the sword, breaking Mira's weapon. Surprisingly, it was the Phoenix sword, the very sword that had been stolen by Song Jin earlier. Immediately, Marine's wooden sword transformed into a real sword. Marine attacked while mocking Mira, saying she did not recognize the divine power of the sword. He believed Mira was not worthy to wield that sword. At that moment, Mira unleashed her 5th and 1st techniques in succession, knocking Marine away, and reclaiming the Phoenix sword. But Mira did not expect that the sword had already accepted Marine as its master, and it immediately flew back to Marine. Meanwhile, Diaoyi ran everywhere looking for Mori, and he encountered Pam Wong. He was knocked out by a girl in the bathroom. Bora was hitting him while praising Diaoyi for being handsome. However, Diaoyi said he didn't have time, because he wanted to take Pam Wong away. Suddenly, Bora lunged forward and kissed Diaoyi. Then, she tried to knock Diaoyi unconscious, but Tech appeared and dragged Bora away. It turned out Bora was a member of Tech's team. At the warehouse, Mori kept calling but his grandfather didn't wake up. Suddenly, his grandfather laughed, telling Mori he was too gullible. Then exploded. At that moment, a man named Flying Dragon appeared, thinking Mori was finished, but unexpectedly, Mori managed to run. Flying Dragon then used clone technique, creating copies to attack Mori. On the arena, Marine revealed he was a member of the Nox cult. He had been waiting for Mira to awaken the power of the Phoenix Sword, but was disappointed, because she was too weak. Meanwhile, Mori was overwhelmed by the clones, causing him to fall. Then Mori was surprised when he discovered the real opponents in today's match. They had been defeated by Flying Dragon's group. It turned out they were imposters infiltrating the tournament. Now trapped, Mori decided to press his acupuncture points to increase his power. And Mori must defeat him within 1 hour, or the power will backfire. On the arena, Mira was defeated by Marine. Suddenly, he laughed wickedly, declaring Mori would never arrive in time. Mira gradually realized that it was all a plot by the Nox cult. Still, Mira believed Mori would definitely come in time. When Marine knocked her back again, Mira began to lose consciousness. Memories of her friends started flooding back, as if trying to awaken her. At that moment, a voice echoed, asking Mira what her wish was. Mira admitted she was weak, but she was determined to become strong to stand shoulder to shoulder with her friends. Suddenly, a bright red beam of light burst forth in the arena. The Phoenix Sword unexpectedly returned to Mira's hand, because Mira had officially awakened her dark power, named Lu Bu. Seeing this, Marine summoned his dark power, the octopus. He attacked her with tentacles, but Mira was unafraid. She charged forward, slicing through each tentacle. Then she unleashed Technique 42, slashing straight down onto the ground, finally defeating Marine and winning the match. Just then, Mori finally arrived, and his next opponent was a guy named Hansel. Hansel asked where Flying Dragon was, but Mori was extremely irritated. He didn't answer. Instead, he charged and attacked Hansel. Mori unleashed a series of powerful moves like when he fought Flying Dragon, leaving Hansel defenseless. In the end, Mori defeated him with a new technique. 4 years ago, at the national tournament, Pio's sister had her leg broken by Tech, forcing her to give up her career as a fighter. Pio was furious. He attacked Tech, demanding he apologize to his sister. But Tech refused to apologize. The reason Pio joined the tournament, and his determination to win this year, was to fulfill his dream of healing his sister's leg. After the match, Mugen told Mori's group the truth about the Nox cult. They worship a single god. They want to eliminate all users of dark power, as those users are incarnations of other gods. Mori wanted to rescue his grandfather, but Mugen said he was still too weak. However, if Mori wins the tournament, Mugen would provide all the information he needs. It turned out Tech had secretly collaborated with Flying Dragon before, but Flying Dragon no longer had any benefit, so Tech did not hold back. He finished them off right on the spot. Today was the first final match between Mori's team and Bio's team. The first match was between Diaoyi and Sung A. As soon as the match started, Sung A charged forward, quickly unleashing a series of kicks. Sung A landed a strike on Diaoyi's ear, making him dizzy. It turned out Sung A had planned this from the start. She targeted the ear, aiming to disrupt Diaoyi's inner ear balance. Sung A immediately took advantage of the moment. She delivered a powerful blow to Diaoyi's shoulder, causing the floor to crack. However, a strange liquid suddenly appeared on Diaoyi's shoulder, helping him block the attack. It turned out Diaoyi had awakened his Ta force thanks to training with the blue-haired judge, and because he wanted to win to help Mori save his grandfather. He unlocked his true power. Bio stood outside, very worried for Sung A. Bio wanted her to quit, fearing she would suffer the same fate as his sister. But Sung A, with her indomitable fighting spirit, refused to give up. She stood up and charged to attack again, but she was defeated by Diaoyi's Ta force enhanced punch, and he defeated Sung A at that moment, the leader of the Nox Church. His name was Manduk, and Manduk began to attack the tournament. Mugen arrived just in time to stop him. Outside the arena, members of the Nox Church also appeared. A giant sword fell from the sky under Manduk's command. Mugen blocked it just in time, but it didn't stop there. At this time, Manduk's subordinates, opened the gate in the sky to let the gods descend. They continued to push the sword down, forcing Mugen to use all his strength to block it. Now the next match between Mori and Pio began. Mori's skills were completely outmatched by Pio. Pio fought while showing Mori his weak points. Mori launched the Twin Dragon Spear Strike, but Pio countered with the Infernal Phoenix Fist. Mori then counterattacked with Myra's Moonlight Sword style, which surprised Pio. Mori continued by borrowing Dewee's Fist of Black Turtle. He punched Pio far away. Not stopping there, he even created a third move, the Blue Rain of the Azure Dragon. Mori shattered Pio's Hellfire Flame Blade. Finally, Pio fell off the arena floor. At that moment, a member of the Strongest Six, Hangryong, appeared. He came to support Mugen. Hangryong was excited, because he hadn't fought in a long time. He told everyone to enjoy the battle. Meanwhile, the judges also joined the fight. They easily defeated the members of the church. Hangryong took out many weapons with divine power. He used them to attack the sword, and Hangryong caused it to be deflected. Finally, he summoned a giant puppet. It bit the sword to pieces, forcing Manduk to retreat. At this moment, on the arena floor, a white fox appeared. It approached Pio. Manduk was delighted because the final key had awakened. Long ago, there was a nine-tailed fox who had cultivated for thousands of years. It was very powerful, and the nine-tailed fox was one of the strongest creatures in the Heaven Realm. It once protected the Heaven Realm. Wherever the nine-tailed fox went, it won, because they feared its power so much. The Heaven Realm found reasons to execute the nine-tailed fox. The nine-tailed fox was betrayed. It became furious. The nine-tailed fox destroyed half of the Heaven Realm, and in the end, it was banished to hell. But it still swore to take revenge. And the nine-tailed fox fell into a 1,000-year sleep. Now, Bio has awakened the nine-tailed fox, and she has awakened its power. Pio transformed to look like Naruto. Now Mori can no longer touch Bio. Bio became so strong that Mori was completely helpless. However, Bio's new power was still out of control, causing Bio to feel dizzy. Realizing the opportunity, Mori became excited again, so both of them charged forward, creating a blazing firestorm all over the arena. Pio summoned a pack of fire foxes to attack Mori. Suddenly, Mori seemed enlightened. He lightly swung his hand. Mori shattered Pio's attack. Everyone was stunned when they saw dark clouds gathering over the arena. Bio used the Night Parade of 100 Demons. She attacked Mori with full force. Mori only needed a light flick, sending Pio flying into the sky. At that moment, a giant monkey hand suddenly appeared. That strike crushed Pio and knocked him down onto the arena floor. Everyone was amazed by Mori's victory. Even Mori himself didn't understand what that power was, because it wasn't from the nine-tailed fox. Manduk was forced to flee when his attack failed, but Mugen knew he still had other schemes. After the match, Bio was taken away for treatment. Mori later visited Pio, and he told him about his grandfather being captured. Mori shared his desire to become the champion, because he wanted more clues to rescue his grandfather. Pio warned Mori that his final opponent, Tech, was an extremely powerful person. At that moment, Jugok seemed possessed by evil energy. He went to find Tech for a rematch. Although Jugok was stronger than before, he was still defeated by Tech along with his maid. After that, Jugok absorbed the maid, turning into a full demon. Jugok relentlessly attacked Tech. In the chaos, Jugok vomited out the maid, and he started attacking wildly. Jugok absorbed both Sung A and Hyunbok, but the maid was still alive. She risked herself to calm Jugok down. Finally, Jugok gradually regained his senses, but Tech summoned a shark that bit Jugok in half. At the same time, it caused Sung A and Hyunbok to lose their limbs. Witnessing that scene, Bio was furious. He knocked Tech out of the hospital. So the two of them decided to fight each other. Right after that, Manduk returned, and he played even bigger than before. Manduk opened the gate in the sky. He unleashed thousands of monsters and 1,000 armed Buddha down. Jugok's grandfather swore to avenge his grandson, even at the cost of his own life. Tech also summoned his power to fight Bio. The judges all joined the battle. They defeated each monster one by one. Mugen was using all his strength. trying to stop the giant Buddha statue from falling on the city. At that moment, Mori ran outside to see what was happening. He saw Tech being attacked by Pio. But right after that, Tech summoned a giant monster. He ordered it to swallow Pio whole. Pio tried to escape, but just then, a key fell from his body. Suddenly, all of Pio's energy vanished. Tech rushed to grab the key. Unexpectedly, the monster flew by and snatched the key away. Bongchim and Hangryong also charged in. They attacked the monster to retrieve the key. In the end, Manduk was the quickest to grab it, and he stole the key. In his moment of joy, Manduk was suddenly attacked by Mori. He delivered a powerful kick, and Mori successfully took back the key. Suddenly, the giant Buddha statue unexpectedly revealed a demonic face. It fell with immense force, causing Mujin to almost be unable to resist. Seeing the urgent situation, Mujin teleported everyone to a safe place. At the hideout, Diaoyi and Mira were with Seong-a and Hyunbok. Seeing their two friends badly injured, Diaoyi summoned her power to heal them. Meanwhile, Mori used a pressure point technique to revive Pio. Pio decided to hand the key over to Mori, and warned him to never let it fall into Tech's hands. Suddenly, the group heard sounds of fighting nearby. Throughout Seoul City, the citizens, terrified, rushed to find shelter. At this moment, Tech had found Mira and Diaoyi. He asked about the location of the key, but since they refused to cooperate, Tech attacked them. Mori rushed over. He saw his two friends lying on the ground. At this time, Tech sensed that Mori was holding the key, while Mujin was trying to stop the Buddha statue from falling. Manduk was about to finish him off. Fortunately, Hangryong arrived just in time to save him. However, both Mujin and Hangryong could no longer hold out. At that moment, a beam of light appeared, and it teleported all the citizens of Seoul to another place. It turned out to be Jugok's grandfather who took action. His name was Duan, and he was one of the 6 strongest people in the world. Duan used a magic wand to summon a giant meteor. The meteor completely destroyed the Buddha statue. Immediately after, a massive explosion occurred and wiped out all the flying monsters as well. Mori and Tech were also caught in the teleportation. They returned to the safe place. Now the city of Seoul was nothing but a ruin. Manduk was still alive, but Duan had sacrificed himself. Taking advantage of the situation, Tech captured Mori, and Tech stole the key. Then, Tech absorbed the key and grew wings. He transformed into a god. Everyone was extremely shocked. With this new power, Tech easily knocked Mira and Diaoyi away in an instant. In this critical situation, Mori used the secret technique Bongchim taught him to become stronger. Thanks to that, he knocked Tech to the ground. Diaoyi and Mira didn't back down either. They immediately summoned their borrowed powers to attack. Mori launched his Blue Dragon's kick again. He followed it up with another powerful kick at Tech. But Tech was completely unfazed. At that moment, Tech unleashed his finishing move. Diaoyi risked his life to block the attack for his two friends. Mori was utterly shocked when he witnessed it. He began to recall his past life. And Mori turned out to be Sun Wukong. Right after, a giant Ruyi Jingu bang pierced down from the sky into the ground. Manduk stepped back in fear. He realized that Mori was the legendary Sun Wukong. Mori shrunk the Ruyi Jingu bang to fit his hand, and charged in to fight Tech on equal ground. Tech summoned more monsters for support, but Mori wiped them out with just a few basic moves. Suddenly, Tech sped up, but Mori kept up with him effortlessly. Their fight was so fast that normal eyes couldn't follow. At that point, Mori was pinned down. He commanded the Ruyi Jingu bang to extend upward. The strike caused Tech immense pain. Then Mori ran along the staff, and delivered a flurry of punches to Tech as payback for his friends. His final punch was so powerful that Tech collapsed to the ground. Unable to stand, Mori still wasn't satisfied. He summoned the somersault cloud. Hundreds of lightning bolts rained down from the sky, striking Tech over and over. At that moment, Mujin realized that Mori didn't need to borrow power from the gods, because he was a god himself. Tech was blasted back into his human form. Seeing this, Manduk panicked and ran away. But right after, Tech transformed into a monster again, and began launching relentless attacks. Suddenly, Mori tried to summon the somersault cloud and the Ruyi Jingu bang. but nothing appeared. Just then, Pio arrived and said, "Rely on your friends a little." Even though they were seriously injured, the whole group charged forward, determined to fight Tech together. They worked in perfect sync with Mugen, slowly breaking off each of Tech's arms. Then Mori created a brand new technique. He launched a kick that formed into a dragon. The dragon pierced straight through Tech, causing his massive body to begin turning to stone. Mori followed up with 2 more dragon kicks, completely destroying Tech's monstrous form. Pio tried to save Tech, but saw that Tech was being devoured by his own borrowed power. Tech pushed Pio's hand away and said, "Live a good life." Then he vanished into thin air. Seong-A and Hyunbok rushed over, worried, to find their friends. Suddenly, a mysterious woman appeared. She introduced herself as the ancestor of humankind. Her name was Kim Eun-neo. She claimed that she was the strongest among the 6 most powerful beings. And she was also the one who would grant the wish of the winning team. That team was Mori's group. Although Eun-neo couldn't bring the dead back to life, she could heal any wound. At first, Mori wanted to resurrect his grandfather. But after thinking it over carefully, Mori wished for all the injured participants in the tournament to be healed. After fulfilling the wish, Eun-neo revealed that Mori's grandfather was still alive. Mori was overjoyed upon hearing this. Now, the fragments of the key had scattered across the world. Pio, as the appointed guardian, would go and collect them. Eun-neo also revealed that the key was the only thing capable of defeating the gods. Since Mori's memories of his past life were still vague, the whole group decided to set off on a journey. They would return to the homeland of the Monkey King to uncover more. In the end, the traitor among the judges turned out to be none other than the blonde-haired one. And that wraps up part 1 of the manhwa The God of High School. See you all in the next part. That's the end of today's video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel, so Oni-chan can keep making more fun and exciting videos. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. Love you all forever.